Today my topic is future-proof data center for enterprises, and the talking points are about CapitaLand Data Centres, why future-proof data centers. So I'll be talking about demand drivers. What are the design parameters of this data center, and how is the selection approach? And finally, I'll be talking about the services which are specifically crafted for our enterprises. But before that, I wanted to talk about who we are, what we do, and why we are setting up, data centers in India. So, CapitaLand Group is headquartered and listed in Singapore. We are Asia's largest diversified real estate group, and we are present in 41 countries, more than 2,000 plus cities, and with 1,200 and plus properties. So when we talk about properties, it's not only the International Tech Park Whitefield, which is our business park brand. We talk about our logistics parks. We also have a hospitality vertical, which is Citadel and Oakwood. So these are all our hospitality brand. Having said that, we entered into data center field way back in 2005. This is our 17th year, and the real journey took up when CapitaLand acquired a company called Ascendus Singbridge. So Ascendus Singbridge had the domain expertise to design, build, and operate data center. And now we are not only the real estate leaders, but we also are a technology player. And in India, we are coming up with 5 data center. Globally, we are present with 20 plus data center, out of which 11 are in Europe and rest are in Asia Pac region. So this is pan-India footprint in Mumbai. We are coming up with 2 data center campuses, one in Rabale, which is 7-acre land, which has already 120 megawatt of power sanction. There will be 2 data center buildings, which will be 30.5 megawatt of IT load. So in the same campus, a customer can expand for next 10 to 15 years. The second campus, we are going to come up in Mahape. In Hyderabad, we are going to set up in our own international tech park. Again, it is 40 acre land on which our IT parks are built. So the data center, what we are going to set up is 22 megawatt, and it's a standalone building. However, we have enough and more expansion space in the same campus. In Bangalore, we are again going to come up in International Tech Park with a 26 megawatt of IT load. In Chennai, we are going to come up with Ambattur. And finally, in Noida, we are going to come up with a data center. So this is the pan-India data center park expansion. We are, so as we are in the build phase, our go live date or early access is Q4 23. So next year we'll be ready with our data center footprint in Mumbai and Hyderabad. With this, pan-India capacity will be 300 megawatt of IT load. That we are talking about 600 megawatt of gross load. Pan-India 55,000 racks and 42 lakh square feet of white tile space. And by 2028, we will be 11% market share of Indian data center market. Now, this is what is our length and breadth of data centers. Now, let's look at why future-proof data centers. So, we'll see some of the demand drivers that, because I was talking to CIOs and they asked why you are building so many data centers when everybody is moving on cloud. So, as all the enterprises are moving on cloud, like BFSI, 2.6x growth in cloud, your retail is 3.4x. And so this is the growth of cloud. Whether you go on cloud or you come in a data center, in either ways, data center players are benefited. So that's the basic need of a cloud. Data localization plays a critical role. So Facebook has 2.85 billion users, Indian users, and similarly WhatsApp has 2 billion. The entire data is not in India. Currently, both Facebook and WhatsApp, they are using data centers which are in Singapore, and those are massive data centers. So in case of data localization bill comes in, so the entire data will rest in India. There are underwater sea cables which are present currently 11, and another 4 cables are going to land in Mumbai and Chennai. Most of these cables are used by hyperscalers or OTT players or e-commerce. So 66% of these cables are used by them, and rest with the enterprises. So that is the reason the Indian data center market is growing like crazy. There are other geopolitical factors such as Singapore has a moratorium for the data centers. Europe has a low power issue. So India is going to poised to grow as a data center hub. And finally, the enterprise demand. Now, CIOs like you are adopting cloud, you are adopting software as a service, hosted application, infrastructure as a service, and on-premise workloads are moving on data center. So we have seen that BFSI sector is using the most of the data centers because of regulation and other factors of compliance and other things. Then IT/ITES sector, then telecom, and finally the entertainment and media. So these are all the demand drivers which are fueling the data center growth in India. Now, how to future proof your data center? So first, let me come to the basics, that is the land and building. So when we build a data center, while we select the land, there are around 150 to 200 checklists, which we call it a FTDC, like Future Proof Data Center Checklist. So there are many things like 100-year flooding history. We do due diligence for the soil. We also look at socio-economic study, whether there are chemical factories around, defense establishment around, and we finally go and select the land. After that, when we go for a building, the building has to sustain for next 30 to 40 years. So we build a building accordingly. So this is the basis of a future-proof data center. Power. We are going to set up a GIS substation that is as good as a substation which can power 55 to 60,000 houses within our own land, and with 220 kV of line. Now there are data centers which gets 11 kV, 22 kV, 33 kV, 66 kV, but the downtime is more in those lines. 220 kV downtime is just 4 to 5 hours in a year. So that is the reason we are getting 220 kV in each and every data center land parcels, and we are setting up a GIS substation over there. Connectivity piece. Now, we talked about latency. We also talked about carrier neutrality. So we are getting 4 diverse path within the data center campus from all the service providers. So there will be 4 diverse path, and those fiber path will come from not only the from the nearest POP, but also from the metro area network, and finally they will be connecting to underwater sea cables. Again, that's a redundancy. So this is the kind of redundancy we are building in connectivity. Cooling, yes. So in case of power failure, and we are building massive structures with a 30 megawatt, so there is huge amount of heat that get generated. So we are building huge thermal storage tanks that can keep the data center cool for 6 to 8 minutes, even in case of power failure, and then the DG cranks up and data center is alive. So we are building tier 3 plus category data centers. We have achieved 100% uptime globally, and we are going to promise that uptime in India as well. Safety parameters, we are not talking about 7 layers or 8 layers of physical security here. That is given, right? CCTV surveillance, dual factor authentication. But we are doing TVRA test, that is threat and vulnerability assessment. We are also doing SBD, which is secure by design. And nowadays there are new threats like drone attack and other things which we are going to cater when we do these kind of audits. And finally, the environmental sustainability. The CIO and CTO today has a norm, right? By 2020 carbon neutral. So we can assure you that if you use our data center from day one, you can say that your infrastructure will be carbon neutral from day one, because we are going to feed our data centers with green powers. And we have done that in International Tech Park, which is currently gets 80% green power in Bangalore as well as in Hyderabad. Now let's look at what are the data center selection approach. So one is co-location, where you get a ready building and it's a plug and play for anybody, right? But we have seen recently that two of the large hyperscalers setting up their own campuses in Hyderabad, and they purchase huge land and they set up their own data center. And then third is a build to suit, where if you have a sizable requirement, you come to us and you tell us that I want a hall, or I want a building with 300, 400 seats of my own for work area recovery or a BCP, and you set up a data center as well as a work area recovery for me. So all these models can be offered by CapitaLand, because we have uh, international tech parks and the land parcel available with us. So for the co-location, we are building a speculative co-location. But for build to suit, do come to us, where we can set up a data center and the recovery seats. Also, ODCs, that is offshore data centers, can be set up for you. And labs also can be set up. For example, there are many OEMs who want to set up their own labs, so we can do that for them. And also for the self-build, now we have land available in all the major metros, so we can also facilitate the self-build for the master lease. Now with all this, we are setting up our services on 4 pillars. That is safe, secure, scalable, automation, flexibility, and efficiency. So these are our 4 pillars. Customer experience is at our core. Now, see, we cannot give any customer experience to our customer. The customers will experience on their own, but we are the enabler to provide them services. So I think that's all from my side. And we have a stall, so do visit to our stall, and we can talk more about our new services like powered shell, infrastructure shell, and other stuff. Thank you very much.